is going on, guys? Welcome back to the longgg channel. Today, as you can see, it's finally nice enough in Newfoundland to get the cars out of storage, and I want to use this video as a formal introduction to my 2003 BMW E46 M3. I don't want to get too wordy. What I want to do is I have a really bad belt squeak in this car, and I have an exhaust leak, and that's the two things I really want to knock off the list today. But before we dive into that, I kind of want to just give you a little backstory of how I got this car, what this car kind of means to me sentimentally, and just to give you an overall feel of where this car came from. I guess I'll just dive right in and say this was actually, I want to call him a buddy of mine. We kind of became friends very shortly before, unfortunately, he passed away. We were doing a job and he was kind of foreman over the crane, I was foreman over welders, and we were sharing a truck back and forth. And he kind of, we came to common ground and said, he's into cars, I'm into cars, and motorcycles, etc., etc. But he said he kind of got into an accident with this car. He had an accident and it was one of his dream cars, and he really wanted to fix it up at some point in his life. Being that it's a BMW M3 E46, and being that we're in Newfoundland, very extremely rare car. There's not a whole lot of these in Newfoundland, and parts are even more scarce, I guess you could say. So I said, you know what, if you ever want to, shape the car, and I'm always doing projects and whatnot, like maybe I can just buy off you and rebuild it just for a little project. He said, nope. He said, you'll never get the car. He said, it's one of my dream cars, and I plan on doing it all. Being a car guy, I know exactly where he was coming from. So, unfortunately, jump ahead, probably 3 or 4 months later, kind of got the text message, kind of got the call that unfortunately he passed away. Very young man. We lost a very amazing iron worker when that happened. Dude was super cool. And it kind of came up, that his parents were, I'm sure as a parent, that's probably one of the hardest things anyone would ever have to do. But I felt like, how am I going to reach out about the car? Like, I didn't want to be ignorant. I didn't want to be that guy. So I kind of just let it be. I said, you know what? I'm not even going to venture into that territory. But through a friend and through another work colleague, he kind of reached out and said, you know what? They're getting rid of the car. They're probably just going to send it to the scrap, or they're just going to, send it to the crusher. It's a BMW. It got kind of a fair amount of damage, and it's just in the way at the moment. So I kind of called him up, took a trailer, took a buddy, went out and looked at it. And when I first bought it, when I first put it on the trailer, I said, it looks kind of a little cosmetic type thing. But once I got it home and we tore really into it deeply, it was quite significantly damaged. Probably to the point that it probably would have been better off being a parts car at that point. But where it was this guy's car, where I worked with him, where he said that he really wanted to get it back on the road, and unfortunate that he passed away, I kind of said, you know what, screw it, let's try it. Let's try to get it back on the road. So this is where it's at right now. Original Astoria blue color car, originally from BC. 84,000 kilometers, original kilometers. That's the original motor, original everything. But I'm at the point of the build now that it's kind of like just little piddly stuff where I had to readjust the bumper, fix a few things. But this car actually hasn't been on the road in, I believe it's close to 10 or 11 years. It has not seen asphalt. So it runs great, it drives great. I think this summer's going to be the first summer I'm really trying to get it pushing for the road. And it's kind of going to be a shakedown summer where I drive it around, see what it needs, see if it needs anything crazy. But yeah, manual 6-speed car, really fun car. It has the legendary S54. For people that don't realize, the E46 M3 is becoming one of the most sought after chassis of essentially BMWs. I mean, it's E36 M3s, E46 M3s, and although the newer BMWs are absolutely amazing, phenomenal cars, these are just going up in value, and I don't think it's going to be going anywhere. But yeah, I think we'll dive right in. I'm going to try to fix that squeaky belt because that's annoying as hell, and hopefully I can fix the exhaust leak as well. I'm not even really sure where it's coming from. I don't know if it's up on the head, I don't know if it's a joint, not really sure. But it's kind of a sin to have a car this nice and just have this horrible exhaust leak, this cracking and banging. So yeah, we'll dive into that. First I'm going to try to get that that belt tensioner. So guys, I figured I'd just show you the parts that I will be replacing today. Hopefully I don't have to go too deep. Hopefully this can be pretty quickly rectified with the idler pulleys I bought. But I do want to just kind of highlight this and show you one of the pretty crappy things about living in Newfoundland. These two idlers I bought from ECS Tuning. I believe they're out of the United States, but I believe they have a branch in Ontario, so usually they kind of cross-reference parts. I've got a lot of parts from those guys for this car, and they've been a lifesaver. They've been in Ontario, they ship really easily, it's really great. But I will show you one thing that kind of gives you a kick every now and again. To replace the idler wheels in these cars, idler bearings, idler pulleys, this big one here was $14.95. The other one was $7.46, and I bought something else that you'll probably see later for $5. So the subtotal came to about $27 Canadian. Shipping to get these three items, which the other item isn't very much bigger than this, is $43.30. So it turned essentially what was a $28 job into a $70 job. And you get kicked with that all the time in Newfoundland. Logistically, we're a nightmare where we live. We're on an island, like you say, and at some point of whatever the hell you want to get into Newfoundland, it either has to get on a plane or a ferry service to get, you know, chartered across the Atlantic. And, you know, weather, everything. I can rant on about days for that. But another thing that I will point out, this bumper, I had to replace the front bumper. I bought it used out of Ontario. There's a guy up there that he just buys these cars, parts them out. I believe he gave me a really great deal for like a couple $100 for the factory bumper, factory BMW bumper. I think it was literally like $400 shipping just to get a bumper from Ontario to Newfoundland. So that's one thing about Newfoundland. If you're a car guy and you're thinking about moving here, probably don't. Stay where you're at. But yeah, so we're going to dive into this. Hopefully I don't have to take that all apart too much. So guys, I went ahead and just removed a couple little plastic pieces. The idler pulley that we're actually trying to get at, I believe this one right here is actually the really squeaky one. So I'm going to get you focused. This one here seems to be the one that's really bad. If you notice the belt, kind of going to need a new belt here soon as well. There is one other pulley down there, and I think while I'm in there, I'm probably just going to replace it since I already have it bought. So hopefully I can get around this hose. I don't need to remove that because I don't want fluid everywhere. Hopefully I don't have to drop this radiator shroud. And yeah. So guys, this is definitely the one that was giving us our issue. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear that, but you can tell that it's really free, it's kind of loose. And this is the factory BMW one. I mean, perfectly sealed bearing. Definitely the issue was that one. So guys, while I'm actually in here, I'm going to replace the, I guess this goes on your belt adjustment pulley, I guess you could call this one. This one's actually not too bad. I probably could have got away with that for forever probably. But I bought a new one anyways because I knew that this was kind of a little bit of a nuisance of a job. So replace both of them while I'm in here. I'm going to throw this one back on. Then the other one that we've seen is actually, this one here, which is actually the one that's really bad and giving me the squeak in the first place. This long bolt actually goes through all this, and this holds on the alternator to the alternator bracket as well. So that one was a little bit tight coming out, as you could probably see in the previous time lapse. But I think it should be fine. The hardest part I think we're going to have with all this right now is getting the belt back on in the proper orientation. I will say that if you go to do this, it's going to be about 4 million times easier on your head. Just take this top hose off, radiator hose. I might still have to do that when I'm trying to reroute all my my belt. I'm going to try my hardest not to, because I really don't want to have coolant all over the place. So guys, one thing that I will show you down here, as you can see, probably right about there, we have a notch. And this is essentially where your idler wheel gets bolted into. But as you can see on the back of our idler wheel bracket, we have this little kind of a knob. And that's actually where that sits, and that'll give you the proper clocking position on where that's supposed to sit and where that's supposed to be bolted to. And it kind of locks it in place for moving around in you. Guys, one thing that I do like to do when I'm reinstalling old hardware is I like to come over here to the bench grinder. I just have a wire wheel set up on one side of my bench grinder, and I'll just take the scale off of the bolt, any aluminum oxidization maybe you could call it, and it just helps for easy install. You're not fighting against rust and stuff on your threads. The one thing that I will say though, it may be a little bit far-fetched and it may never happen. If you're using carbon steel wire wheel or grinding discs and you have a nice stainless bolt, or even one like this that's some type of coating onto it, I'm not really sure what type of coating, it may actually, the carbon steel wire actually may impregnate into your finishing bolt, and it may actually rust, and it may look terrible in the future, and it may even rust in its threads and give you a whole lot of trouble in the future. So guys, I went ahead and put everything together. All my two pulleys are back on, tightened down. That belt is going to be a nightmare. I'm thinking, if I remember correctly, I think I'd done that from underneath last time. Just seems to be a lot of stuff in the way. You could probably get it from here if you want to take off your fan and drop your fan. But even with this radiator shroud, I think that's a lot bigger job than what is actually needed. So I think I might jack the car up because I want to have a look at the exhaust leak anyways. And hopefully I can probably get up underneath a little bit better.
Shut up and sit down.
With quick jacks, I usually just put them maxed out, and they actually have a safety right here. I just come down and cover up the safety. And that's it. So guys, the one thing that I will mention about the quick jacks, I've been running these things for probably 4 or 5 years now, and I've rebuilt 2 or 3 cars on it. I've had my CTSV up on these, and they're the greatest things ever. I mean, if you don't work on your cars enough to justify going out and buying a 2-post lift, where, you know, it's kind of, as much as I love the 2-post lift, you know, you walk in, you're tripping up over the arms and whatnot sometimes. So this is a great alternative. And it allows you to get out of the car. Not as great, they won't go up as high of course, but they're also really portable. You can throw them in the back of your truck if you want to go to your buddy's shop. You know, it's fairly easy as long as you have a 110 volt system to run this, even a generator if you're on the side of the road. Another cool feature with them, they're actually just quick connect. So if you want to put the car up, put it on its safety arms and clean all this up and just leave it in storage, another great option. A lot of guys online and on forums sometimes say they look like they're really tippy, but I've rebuilt this car. I've had my CTSV up on it, and there was another couple cars that we've put up on these quite a few times. And when I say I rebuilt them, I mean like sometimes it's like sledgehammer and like pulling out chain falls alongs, and sometimes it gets a little bit snarly. And knock on wood, I really don't want to jinx myself that we haven't had an issue with them yet. A great alternative if you don't want to go buy that 4-post or 2-post. And I'd like to say that I'm sponsored by them and I'm throwing this at you, but I'm not. I just think it's a great tool that if you guys are on the fence with, for sure, just pick them up. Alright guys, so I went ahead and I put all these plastic shrouds back on. I really tried to get the camera up there so I could show you guys essentially how the belt tensioner works and the routing of the belt. Just wasn't really happening. I didn't have enough hands. But I got the belt on. It was definitely a lot easier from underneath. Put all these plastic pieces back on. One thing that I am going to have to look out for in the future is there's a plastic piece that goes here with an electric fan. I'll be looking for that in the future. And a bunch of hardware, because this car actually took a hit in front, and unfortunately I lost a lot of plastic clips and stuff that it never even came with the car. So I think I'm just going to start it up and see if that noise is gone. It got to be gone with that bad audio wheel. So I'm going to start it up, we'll see if we can hear anything, and then we're going to go for that exhaust leak. You can really hear that tick, and unfortunately, I think it's coming from the head on the header. As for the squeak, I hear a little turn, but that might be the belt because we're in such a bad shape. Still am hearing a little bit of a squeak there. I'm not really sure what that is now. Maybe it could be the belt, but like you say, it could even also be the alternator, probably, because that alternator was on when it was in the accident. Maybe it could have something to do with that. But I've kind of gone as far as I can with that because I obviously ran out of parts. But let's try to track down that exhaust leak. I think it's right here on cylinder number 1 or 2 by the sounds of the exhaust. So guys, as much as I really feel strongly that our exhaust leak is up on the front of the car, around the head area, I'm thinking, this is something I wanted to try, and it may not work whatsoever, but I'm going to try it anyways. So what this is, it's an Auto Tool smoke leak detector, and you can get these on Amazon fairly cheap. And they're really great for trying to find vacuum leaks, and you just stick it into your air intake and you put mineral oil in there, and it just produces white smoke, and it's just a very mini version of a white smoke machine. And I was thinking, well, what if I put it in the exhaust and just let it go up through? Would I see an exhaust leak a little bit easier? You can always start the car and roll underneath and feel around, but would this work? That's what I'm kind of trying to find out, to see if this will actually work. Now the way it hooks up, it's very simple. It comes with 2 alligator clips, and you just hook it to your battery, which our battery's in the back of the BMW, of course, so that makes it kind of easy. And once you hit the power, the red light will come on and it'll start producing smoke. Probably not right away. It takes probably 30 or 40 seconds. I will tell you, it's very hard on the lungs, whatever type of mineral oil or whatever oil you put in there. It's all in the, as you can see there now, it's starting to produce white smoke. So I'm going to shove that up the muffler and we'll see if we can get some white smoke there. I'll crawl underneath and see if we can find some. So guys, I'm actually getting a little bit around here, smoke. As you can see, I had to shove some rags in there. But as you can see, the smoke is quite dense and it's pretty easy to see it. If we come up here to the front of the car, you can see right a bit of smoke coming up right here. And that kind of leads me to believe that it's something on cylinder 2 that I got a really bad exhaust leak. I'm gonna get under the car and I can see cylinder 6 a little bit better when I'm under there. But right now, I definitely have a really bad leak right here somewhere. So guys, we can for sure see that there's a leak right here on cylinder 2. I just crawled underneath the car and looked at all of my other joints and flanges. Everything seems tight down there. I'm not getting any smoke. Now, at the end of the day, I'm sure that the amount of exhaust coming out is quite a bit more pressure than this just white smoke machine type thing can produce, but it should give you a little bit of an idea of how bad this leak actually must be if it can do that. Once again, there's a little bit coming off from here, but I'm not really sure if that's just traveling under the car. When I went underneath and slid underneath, I went around everything and couldn't really find anything else. So guys, I think I kind of fixed my exhaust leak. This second flange here was actually pretty loose, so I went around and retightened whatever I could get from here to the top. But as you can tell, I replaced 2 of those idler bearings, but man, there's still such a squeak here. I have no idea what it is. I think I figured out what it is. It is actually the belt is really squeaky. I'm not really sure if you've ever seen it on TikTok where this guy has a squeaky belt and he uses like underarm antiperspirant stuff. So me being me, I had to try this. So we're gonna crawl into the car and we'll see if it works. Guys, we're gonna go under the car. I don't recommend putting your hands around any belts or stuff, but for the sake of science, no more squeak. Maybe a little squeak. So I guess that means we have a bad belt, I guess. Not really sure. Hey, TikTok was right for once, I guess. The antiperspirant deodorant thing kind of worked. It kind of showed me that there was a belt that was really, really squeaking. So I guess you call that a successful car hack, I guess. It lets me know that the belt is in fact squeaking and it wasn't something else. My girlfriend's gonna be super pissed at me when she realizes that I used her deodorant for that, but that's fine. She'll get over it. I'm going to pass on getting the belt for now. I'll just keep an eye out on 2-for-1 deals at Walmart for antiperspirant, and we can bypass the belt altogether. We don't need the belt. But no, I'm just joking. We will order a new belt for this car because that's absolutely. I knew that belt was bad anyway. Just kind of had it. As for the exhaust side of things, number 2 cylinder. Went around the flange, it's only a 3-bolt flange system on that, and I've retightened it, retorqued it, and it did come out of it. It's still leaking, guys. I wanted to just come right out and say it's not as bad, it's not as common. When the car heats up and when it gets up to temperature, it's gone. It doesn't do anything. But I do want to rectify that. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. Those headers were a nightmare to put on. They were absolutely insanely hard to put on. Probably one of the worst jobs I had to do in rebuilding this car was putting those headers on. So I do want to fix that though. I don't want to keep that ticking like that. It is a really nice car and I don't want it to be squeaking and banging going off the road, you know what I mean? But other than that, I guess we can call it a successful day. I mean, that idler pulley did have a replace. It was bad, no doubt. And that's probably the big reason that the belt actually was as haggard as, well, what it is. Other than that, guys, I think we're going to call it a successful day, or we figured out a few things anyways. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, and I'm going to see you on the next build. This thing's not going anywhere. You will see this again. Thanks for watching.